All right, guys. So here's 3.5 notes day 2. So we were using common formulas yesterday, um, like solving area and perimeter and volume. And so we have two new ones that we're going to be working with. And this is principal times rate times time, which has to do with interest. And we're also going to use the distance formula, which some of you guys might have done before in like physics class, or depending on the type of science you guys have taken. So first one, we have interest. Interest is money earned. Okay. Usually interest is bad because a lot of companies and a lot of businesses make money off of us. Okay. It's very rare that we make a ton of money off of companies, but you do get interest if you put up your money into like a savings account, right? So that's interest is the money earned on a dollar. The principal is the starting amount. So that would be like the amount of money that's in your account. Okay, so it's always in dollar signs. Interest is a rate in percent, but if we are going to multiply, we need to make sure we change it to a decimal. Decimal. And then last but not least, we need to put time in years. All right, so T is representing time by years. The tricky thing is if we are talking about months and we do get a months, we have to know how many months are in a year. So it's important to know there's 12 months in a year, just in case. Equals 1 year. All right. And I don't know if we have any of those type of problems today, but we will see those in the future. So for example, if you were to do this problem, 6 months, we cannot put 6 months as 6. We'd have to represent that as 6 over 12 in your calculator, because 6 months versus 6 years is completely different. Okay, just like 8 months would then be 8 over 12. So just make sure you do that. All right, so we have two practice problems, which we're going to do. We're going to find the interest on a $2,000 bond paying the annual rate of 12%, which is a ton. You don't see that anymore, for 5 years. So we're going to put that into our formula. So we have interest equals principal, which is always the dollar value, dollar times percent times the number that we're given. Okay, so it's pretty much as easy as that, is taking these three kind of codes and plugging it in. So we're going to start with the interest equals our principal is 2,000. And we're going to times that. So I'm going to put it all in parentheses. Principal times rate. All right, so rate is going to be 0.12 because we need to times the percent by 100 in order to or divide it by 100 in order to change it to a decimal, and then we're going to multiply it by 5. All right, so that is actually what our formula looks like. And as long as we can identify those three things and plug it into the calculator, that's going to be good by us. So we're going to go ahead and take the 2,000 times 0.12 times 5. So in 5 years, if you don't even touch that money and you just come back 5 years later, it's going to be worth interest. The I equals $1,200. So at the end of 5 years, you would actually have $3,200 in that account, which is really nice for not even needing the money, right? So that's the idea of it, is your money's making you money. It's like it had its own job. All right. So how long? So this time we're trying to find time, right? So we're not always given just the three pieces of information on this side of the formula. Sometimes we're given other information. So now we're going to have to look at this a little more carefully. How long must $100 be invested? So we have $100. That is our principal. So we have $100. Right. And we know we have the rate of 6%. So that's 0.06. And we do not know the time, right? So the time is going to be our T. And we know that's going to equal $42 of interest because it's telling us that. All right, so this time we have a formula which we're going to have to simplify and solve. We're trying to get t by itself. So we're going to have to break this down into steps. The first thing we're going to have to do is take our 100, and we're going to times it by that 0.06, that's 6%. So then you're going to get 42 equals 6 times t. Okay. So at this point, we want to get t by itself. And so to separate these two, we divide, right? So we'll divide both sides by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. All right, these will cross out. And we're ultimately going to be left with 42 divided by 6. 42 divided by 6 is 7. So 7 equals t, which means how long would it take me if I just put $100 in this account? How long did it take me to get $42? Well, it took 7 years. So 7 years is going to be the answer. Okay, so that's a pretty long time, but also $100 isn't a lot of money. So it doesn't have a lot of time to make more money. Okay, so that's an example of when we are missing the interest, which makes it really easy because all we do is multiply, versus an example where we have to simplify and divide. This process is the same exact process you would do if we were missing the principal or the percent as well. All right, cool. Just make sure I go ahead and circle my answers there, 7 years. All right, so the next one we're talking about distance, rate, and time. Again, rate is a percent or a decimal. All right, so we got percent, and then we have time, and then we have distance, okay? So, yeah. So determine the average speed of a train that can travel. So we have 1,200 miles, and we have the time. Okay, we're missing the rate. We want to find the average speed, the rate. So this time we're going to put in our formula. We have d equals rate times time. Okay, and then we're going to plug in the pieces of information that we know. So we have the distance, right? The train that can travel 1,200. So we have the distance, and that equals, we don't have the rate, but we do have the 4.5 hours. All right. So we do have some of the information, but again, we don't have all of it. So we have to use math, right? So that rate is being multiplied by the time. So we can go ahead and the undo multiplication is to do division, right? Hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. So we have our right here, and so we're going to divide both sides by 4.5. 4.5 and 4.5. So we are determining, we got distance divided by time. So we go ahead and do that in our calculator, and you're going to get 2.6. Oops, sorry. Got 266.6. And now we know that's going to be miles, and that is per hour. And so all we had to do there is some simple division to find out that it was going to be 266 miles per hour. We have to travel at that speed in order to cover 1,200 miles in 4.5 hours. All right, so we got a similar situation down here where we are given that we have to travel 3,200 miles in 2.5 hours. So we're going to take our 3,200 miles, and that is set equal to our rate times hours, or rate. And we are given our hours, that's 2.5. And again, that is multiplication that's happening. So how do we undo multiplication? Well, we use division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2.5. Divide by 2.5. These are going to go ahead and cancel out, which is perfect. And then we're going to get 3,200 divided by 2.5, and that's going to be 1,280. We have to be traveling that fast. That's really fast. Miles per hour, which maybe a jet can do, but I don't believe an average airplane could travel that fast. Maybe a small one. But there's your answer. All right. So what you guys are going to do is practice a few of these. You're going to practice a few interest ones, and you're going to practice a few distance ones where you might be missing the time, the distance, or the rate. Again, if you guys have questions, as always, let me know. Make sure you guys submit your notes after completing them.